Okay, today we're going to look at powers and roots. You should already have looked at the video with squares and square roots, and this is taking it one stage further. So we're going to start off with powers, which are also called indices, and we'll talk about the words a little bit more in a minute. So powers are a quick way, an abbreviation of writing repeated multiplications. So from the square and square roots clip, you should remember that 5 times 5 can also be written as 5 squared, or 5 to the power of 2. This number here is called the power or the index, and it's just a shorter way of writing it, and it does turn out to be 25. These numbers must all be the same. You can't use powers if the numbers are different, but I've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now that's not the same as 5 times 2, it's 2 to the power 5. 5 times 2 would be 10, but this is going to be 2 times 2 is 4, 8, 16, 32. So using powers is a quick way of writing all that. And when you're using powers, numbers tend to get big very quickly. 3 times 3 times 3, we actually call that 3 cubed, or 3 to the power of 3. And that's 27. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 again is 27. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, we'd call 10 to the power of 4. We call this squared, we call this cubed. When the numbers get bigger than 3, we don't have a special name for it, we just call it 2 to the power of 5, 10 to the power of 4. 10 to the power of 4 would be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, multiplying 10 by itself 4 times. And when they get really big, we often use a calculator. Now on your calculators, you may have a button that looks like this, or it might be like this. There'll be some way of showing it's a power. On some older calculators and on computer keyboards, actually we use that key for the power, and this is much quicker than writing it out 12 times using this notation. So when the powers get big, you save yourself a lot of time. And 3.2 to the power 12, believe it or not, is 1,152,921.505, should you ever wish to know that. So that's powers, abbreviated repeated multiplications, and use a calculator for the more difficult numbers. Roots are the reverse, the inverse of powers. And we looked at this in our square root video. So the square root of 81 means basically what number do you multiply by itself to make 81, and hopefully you know that one is 9. When we have a little 3 there, what we're saying is what number times by itself 3 times would give you 8, and the answer is 2. So if you do 2 times 2 times 2, that would give you 8. We call this the cube root. We call this the cube root, and we can have larger roots. We would call this the 5th root. So this is saying what number would you multiply by itself 5 times to get 100,000. Now there's no quick way of working this out. You either try numbers, or you recognize numbers, or for ones like this we'd use a calculator. For this one, I hope you'd have a good idea of what that might be because of all the zeros. Hopefully you've guessed that that's 10. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. 10 to the power of 5 would give you 100,000, so working backwards, the 5th root of 100,000 is 10. When you get to ones like this, you really have to use your calculator. And on your calculator, there'll probably be a button that looks like a square root but might have a box there so you can put the number in. So on your calculator, you'd use that key. You might have to have a bit of time playing with your calculator to figure out how it works. So that's called the 6th root of 92. And on my calculator, I get 2.1247, and the decimal goes on and on. So that's the number that you'd have to multiply 6 times by itself 6 times to get 92. There's no way of doing this really at this stage without using your calculator. So powers, repeated multiplications using this notation, and roots are the opposite. Roots, you either know them or spot them, recognize the answers, or you use a calculator to work it out.